y'all virtually Regal.
This is Alan Lachusa Aquayo.
And this is the Indigenous Hip Hop Business Association.
Promoting and supporting positive and conscious Native and Indigenous hip hop. So, welcome back, everybody. How are we doing? Yeah, it's been a little bit. How have you been?
Yeah.
How are things going? What's happening?
I mean, feeling very blessed and honored and humbled to be a human being in this time and space. So, we're gonna honor that and go ahead and start with prayer and offer our gratitude and our blessings. Prayers up for the water, for the wind, for the earth, for the sky. Prayers up for the north, for the east, for the south, for the west, in every direction in between. Prayers up for the birds, for the bees, for the flowers, for the trees. Prayers up for all our relatives. Anything that has ever sustained us here on Mama Earth. Every blade of grass, every bush, every berry, every grit, that black acorn, that black walnut, the pine nut, pinyon, creatures at the bottom of the deep blue sea, tip of every mountaintop. Everybody on that medicine wheel, the white, the black, the red, and the yellow. Prayers up for you. Yeah, we, the Truxes.
Thank you, man. So, you've been busy.
Man, you already know this.
Yeah, you've been busy, and we have a guest today.
Special guest, my brother, my newly found brother, my native relative from Hoopah, Michael McCovey. We'll let him introduce himself momentarily as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So,
doing it back.
Go for it, Mike. How are you? What's going on? Let us know a little bit about you. Who are you? Where are you from? What's happening?
Okay, hey young Humalio, the Huitante, Michael McCovey, Ahoya. So in my native language, that translates to "Hello, my friend. How are you doing today? My name is Michael McCovey." So for me, I'm from Hoopah, California. In my native language, though, they call it Noctanu, and that means where the trails return. And we are called Noctinusque, so that means acorn eaters. But like I said, I'm from Hoopah, California. That's the biggest reservation in the state of California. I lived here my whole life. I got a real big family because I'm not only Hoopah, but I'm Hoopah, Yurok, Karuk, Talawa, Adwampsini, Paiute, and Shasta. And like I said, I lived here my whole life, man, and just always loved music, always loved hip hop. You know what I mean? Like I just started making beats one day and I haven't stopped. I have a little brother right now. He's incarcerated. He did like 8 years in the state penitentiary in California. He gets out pretty soon, but he started rapping, and I was always his beat maker, and I was always just making his beats, and then I was his audio engineer, and it was pretty cool experience. But like I said, I lived here my whole life, but I did move to Hawaii for a little bit. And even when I was over there, I was messing around with music, making beats over there. So I got to meet a lot of cool people in my travels. Lots of different natives, islanders, Usos. just trying to spread that positivity through music. I even worked for this native tattoo magazine for a while, and I think that's like pretty much how I got my start as far as like videography and stuff. And I was always an expressive type of guy. I just love music. I love editing videos, whatever. Just whenever I get on a computer and I put some headphones on, man, it calms me down and it levels me out, and I have a little quiet space to get creative. And I feel like as a Native American man, we're singers, we're dreamers, we're magical people. And for me to have a space to express my feelings, my spirit, that's big, because in today's society, we're not, it's not this. There's not really too much, especially like if you're a Native American man and you live on the reservation, because sometimes sometimes things can be scarce. There's not a lot of resources, but with some tribes, they're doing a lot better job with stuff like that, because not every Native American kid's gonna grow up and go to the NBA, if you know what I mean. But you know what I mean. Like I said, lived on the res most of my life. Lived in Hawaii on the Big Island for a couple years, and I just always loved music, especially native hip hop. I remember back in the day when the first time I heard Lightfoot, and then my dad was like, "Yeah, he played in Mortal Kombat too." So, because like that was like my favorite video game growing up was Mortal Kombat, and I'd always play as Nightwolf. But yeah, man. Got to meet Richie. I met him down at a brush dance ceremony, or it was like a demonstration, but it was down at Grinding Rock down there. And what was the site, Richie? It's like the biggest. Yeah, it's like the biggest grinding rock in the state in the States, right?
Yeah, it's the biggest grinding rock here in North America.
Yeah, so I got to check that out for the first time, and then I seen their little huts or teepees. It was like made out of bark. And that was the first time I ever seen that. But yeah, I got to dance in their roundhouse. Because I also dance too. I always loved dancing in our ceremonies when I was a kid, and it's just something that I took into adulthood. And that's my pride. That's another way I like to express myself, and not only express myself, but my tribe, my ancestors, through music, because they sing. We dance to the beat of the song, because so like how any beat works, right? There's an underbelly of the beat, like there's a certain cadence or beats per minute, whatever you want to call it. So we have like heavy songs, light songs. The light songs they're more quicker. So and when we drum, it's supposed to mimic or imitate the heartbeat of a child or a baby, and that's how we keep the beat. We tap our feet, and ever since then, I was always just trying to keep the beat on everything and just trying to be on point, and not only in music but in life too. Like I just try to make sure, everything is where it needs to be. And that was a cool experience meeting Richie down there at Grinding Rock. And then to hear little bit about his his movement that he's got going on. And so when we went up to Oregon this last weekend, we was talking about it pretty much the whole ride up and the whole ride back. It's California natives versus the world. We're just, we're trying to put us on the map too, because a lot of times I feel like, I'm not throwing shade at nobody or spreading no hate, because that's not what I'm about. But, I feel like most of the other tribes get all the love and we get left out, especially Northern California Indians. Like, I mean, I know everybody, when you think of Northern California, you think of redwoods, and that's why I drew this logo for my YouTube channel, and it says Redwood State of Mind. And, I just kind of, brought that in. But, yeah, the whole California indigenous warrior thing, I felt like I could relate to that heavily. And I talked to my little brother that's incarcerated like every day, and I told him about it. And he even liked it. He was like, yeah, like, hell yeah, that's awesome. Because everybody, especially as a Native American man growing up around here, everybody knows the struggle. Everybody knows, like, like if you have a lot of ceremonial tattoos or like, tattoos that are of your tribe, sometimes, cops will profile you, and you know what I mean? Like, some of these tattoos aren't meant for a negative light, if you get what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Because my mother, she has a chin tattoo, and it's called the 111.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just way of expressing our pride, and not only with tattoos, I like to do with music. And so our whole trip, we was just going up to Oregon. We took the I-5 up first, and then we got pulled over. That was crazy, but but good thing, like Richie said, dude. Just like good thing we're educated, we're articulate. We weren't doing anything wrong, but they were definitely looking for a reason. And I was, like I say, like I got all kinds of native tattoos all over, so like I just try to be on my P's and Q's whenever I'm around cops. And like, you're dark skinned, you got tattoos all over. You know what I mean? Like, you're just looking suspicious to them. So, but yeah, that was definitely I would say it was definitely a bro moment, because guy's your friend when you go through something like that with each other, and you got a good story about it. But yeah, we were just talking about music the whole time. He was introducing me to all these native artists, and I'm like, man, there's a slew of these guys that you know what I mean? And a lot of them had really good music. And we hung out with the bro Fish Martinez.
Yeah, shout out to the bro Fish Martinez. He was an amazing host. He was so gracious. He cooked for us. We had some elk meat burger while we were up there. Michael actually got a little bit more in depth with them, and he was able to go travel up to some of their sacred springs and stuff like that. But yeah, shout out to the bro Fish. Amazing bro, dope artist. He's being featured at an event coming up, I think this Thursday, out there in the Pacific Northwest. It's the Northwest West Coast Fashion Show, I believe is what it is.
Yeah, it's like in Grand Ronde or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, his name, his artist name is 28 the Native, and I read a lot too, so I asked him him about the 2-8, what it meant, you know, because I study a little bit of numerology too. So, you know, but yeah, he was just a really cool guy. And I've never met somebody that just sits there and just raps all day. Like, this dude has like all his rhymes in his head, and he'll just sit there and he's got all his songs memorized. But like Richie pointed out, he was like, man, he's, you know, he stays but to himself. Probably don't really, you know what I mean? Like, don't have too many people all the time that you can, you know, bounce verses off each other back and forth. But yeah, he was a super vibrant dude. Like, he was real, you know, about his music, and I liked that because like I could see the joy that he gets from hip hop, you know. And I was even
real.
He was showing me his machine. He was like, "Hey, you want to jump on the keys?" And you know, my grandma taught me how to play the piano when I was a kid. She told me, you know, because I was a football player, always playing football. I even had a couple offers out of high school to play college ball. I was going to play college ball at high school. But she always said that men need balance in their lives. So when before I'd go to football practice, she would make me take piano lessons. So that's kind of where I got my music side, was from my grandmother, because she was a church lady. She'd be going to church all the time. So I just jumped on the keys with Fish, and we were just hanging out while Richie was at that event at the Youth Authority place. And, you know, I just, like Richie said, man, like, I got to connect with Fish a little bit more in depth, because, you know, he took me up to their fishing side. You know, because I'm a big fisherman too. Like,
this was out on the Toilette Reservation, by the way.
Yeah, up in Oregon, and it's crazy because I've never been to a confederacy. Like around here, like on the north coast of California, we have like rancherias and stuff. But up there, it's like a confederacy, so it's a bunch of tribes within one reservation. So like a lot of their dances and stuff, they're like all mixed in. So they're like sharing all their culture with each other. It's like an exchange, a cultural exchange. But yeah, I even got to chop it up with the Fish's producer. He's from Romania. And that was a really cool experience too. Just, you know, like I said, it's the webs we weave in life, you know. It's like connection here, connection there. And the funny part is that when we got there, he mentioned my uncle, and I was like, "Oh yeah, dude, that's my uncle." And you know, they're like in Indian, like, you know, like on the res, like it's a small world. You know what I mean? Because like a lot of Indians know a lot of other Indians up and down the West Coast, especially like if you're a ball player, like if you go on the all Indian basketball tournaments, or if you make jewelry. Because if you're good, like all the aunties know who you are, you know, and then a lot of the artists, the jeweler makers, they all exchange intellium shells because that's our money. You know what I mean? That's what we used as currency back in the day. And I feel like we still kind of do. You know what I mean? And yeah, so that was a crazy experience. Like, just, it was so laid back, but it was just about music. It wasn't about nothing else. Like, I didn't have to worry about anything. It was just good vibes, good medicine all the way around, you know? And I truly, you know what I mean? I felt like I needed that in my spirit, and I'm just glad, you know, I'm glad I'm here sharing that experience with you guys right now, on this podcast. You know, respect to you, Alan, for having me, and thank you, Richie, dude. Just the way things are coming together. I'm really trying to capitalize off my works of art. Like I sent a couple videos to Alan. Didn't get to check them out yet, but yeah, those are just a few of my works of art as far as videography goes. But I think I am gonna start making beats and then catalog them. But yeah, I just the way Richie and Fish were just talking about music, I was just trying to soak that up and really learn about the industry, the way people move, how they because at the end of the day, I feel like as far as me as I go, I'm just trying to capture a feeling or a vibe, you know what I mean? Like whether it be in a song or a video or whatever. And that whole trip, I was just trying to learn, just trying to, put my best foot forward. I was really just trying to listen to Richie, whatever kind of advice he had for me, because I mean, in a way, hey, that's like a big bro move, you know what I mean? Like just trying to let me know, like, hey, if you do this, do that, don't do this, don't hang around these type of guys, you know what I mean? And just him spreading that positive message to all those young kids that are, those young men. I don't want to say kids because a lot of them are probably, like 18, whatever. But yeah, those young men, because once you get caught in that system, man, it's easy to stay there. And that's the kind of the situation with my brother. I got two little brothers in prison right now, so I really respected Richie for going up there and talking to those those young men, and trying to tell them like, hey, you know what I mean? You don't gotta be all tough to be a warrior. Like, and I think I forget where we were when he said that, but I was like, I get that because like I box, right? Mm. So I box at a casino. Like I've had a couple fights. Like I even had a shot at the title for my weight division. So I'm no slouch. But you know what I mean? Like I feel like in Native American culture, warrior culture, anyways, we're led to believe that we gotta be this big, tough person that don't ever cry and and everything's perfect, but that's not reality. That's not realistic. Like my dad always told me, tough men cry. You got to talk about your feelings because if you don't, you're gonna end up crashing out, and then you end up in an institution. And I feel like Richie can really expand on that. So if you want, Rich, just go ahead and let the viewers know and break it down for them.
Yeah, I mean, the trip was amazing. Like I said, Fish was a gracious host. It was cool to be out there on the Celeste Reservation. When I drove into Tillamook, I went through the Celeste Reservation, followed the river until it mixed the ocean, and then ended up on the 101 for a minute. That was a beautiful drive, just to be into the elements, the trees, and the waterways, and all of the natural beings here on Mama Earth. And then it was a little awkward going to the facility because I was incarcerated myself, basically, as a youth from the age of 11 to 19. That stretch of my life a lot of it was in the institutions. And, so pulling up to that institution the first day was a little nerve wracking, but I knew I was there to deliver a message. We have some amazing workshops, by the way, on our website at www.ihhba.org. Let's go ahead and take a minute to shout all of our other social medias as well. I want to talk just quickly about the social media so that we could get that, and then I'll talk a little bit more about at the youth facilities.
Yeah, so if people just go to www.ihhba.org, that's ihhba.org, you'll see all of our social media that's up there, our Substack, our YouTube channel at the Real IHHBA is all there. Our LinkedIn, Facebook, our Instagram, our Blue Sky. It's all linked up inside of there, and then our articles are up, daily. And it's so coincidental that you guys are chiming in on this, because I almost did the article yesterday. There was a new data that came out on the incarcerated issue of Native men, and that just came out yesterday, and I was going to do it on that, but I wound up doing it on education instead, because we have a new initiative that's being passed and a new legislation here in California that's going to be dealing with foster care. So people can go and read that new article that's up. It was live just earlier today, and they can see us in all the different events that are happening. And right now we have our featured artist, which is Flo, and he's an incredible an incredible break dancer and artist and visual artist, and we're promoting him and his work that's going out. And so they can see all of our past featured artists if they just go to www.ihhba.org. All of our contacts are up there. The events page is up, so they can see what's going on, and they'll be able to tap in with the Sacred Circle Tour. Yeah, and all the exposés that he's going through, and all the craziness that that he's doing, and while I'm here, just holding down the fort, and people can just see, and they'll be able to get all the old podcasts that are up there. So it's a wonderful place and a resource to kind of go and to see and just kind of enjoy and poke around, and to really kind of subscribe, follow, and share and comment on the space. So we want to definitely hear back from you as well. So Rich, since Mike was talking about what's going on, I just have the one question for you to kind of help promote where you're gonna go with it. Is that, did you guys get a video out of this, an actual documentary of all of this?
We didn't necessarily get the documentary of going into the facilities or whatnot, because we needed it. We didn't get prior approval, so I had to go to the facilities myself. So then we didn't really get any document to be able to document that, but we did document the trip, and the bros putting that together. And he interviewed Fish and I when we were over at his house. So we're talking about the trip, talking about going into the facilities and whatnot. But yeah, we didn't really get a video per se, but I think the bro got some footage that he is putting something together.
Yeah, so I think so that would have been ideal for us to actually get footage in the detention centers. That probably would have made the trip. I mean, I honestly think it was still a great trip, but for us to get the footage, that if we went in there together, that would have been awesome. But I did a set of interviews, and I actually did a music video for Fish Martinez while we were there, and he I think his song is called "Water Is Life." For all the water protectors out there, shout out to you guys. You guys are fighting a good fight and protecting our resources. And so I should have those videos done pretty soon, and probably shoot them your guys' way. But yeah,
we'll slap them on the website. Guys, make sure you go tap in, please. www.ihhba.org. Be nice to get some more traction for the website, for all of our social media pages and whatnot. I did have to make an announcement on my music page today. It's a business page, so I had to tell my family, my friends, and foes alike that, hey, I welcome you to be on my page, but I'm trying to find my true 1,000 right now. So if you guys could help me do that, please. That would be freaking amazing. But the trip itself was a blessing. I think, we talked about when I was talking about being a warrior on the trip, what Michael had referred to earlier, he didn't remember what part of the trip that was. That's when Alan actually called me, and we were talking about how a new venture that we're getting ready to work on that I'm going to talk about right after I finish telling you guys a story about going into the youth facilities. So I go into the youth facilities, and man, it was like going 30 years back in time. Or longer than to when I was actually in facilities just like that. When I walked in, I recalled a lot of things that I remembered from being incarcerated. And, I just went in there with the prayer. Of course, we had an agenda. Our workshops are on the website, actually. And I did a carrying culture workshop. And I wasn't able to do our creative writing workshop because time was limited, but I did our carrying culture workshop, and then I did a performance with the Q&A. But really, what I did for a lot of the time was I sat and I wanted to get to know the young men themselves. The youngest was 15, the oldest was 24. Most of them were between the age of 20 and 24. The first facility I went into, Tillamook, was more of a transitional type where they're getting ready to come home and get out. So most of those kids are obviously on their best behavior and trying to come home. But a lot of them have historical traumas and was severely emotionally disturbed. You know what I mean? The second facility that I went into the next day was McLaren. And that was the real deal youth authority. I mean, they're locked up. There's probably people in there for murder and these other major violent offenses and everything else. But, I had the opportunity to go in and reason with them and pray with them and actually broke out my eagle wing for the first time.
Ooh.
And, the music stuff is opened a lot of doors for me, but the prayer is what this is really all about. I am on the tour right now, the Sacred Circle tour. It was wild. We did 3 shows back to back to back, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, back to back to back in 3 different cities in 2 different states. I mean, who does that? Richie Ladrigal. Feel me? Because it's a prayer that I'm in. And this prayer that I'm in allows me to move that way. It allows me to walk this path that Creator has already laid out in front of me. And so I want to make that clear that, all of the things that we do are a prayer. It's part of this prayer. And it's this indigenous warrior prayer, this universal prayer. And that's why my good friend, my brother, Dr. Alan Lachusa, sir, because you have a PhD in Native American studies, Native American hip hop, I'm allowed to call you sir when I choose to do so in a respectful way. I'm honored and humbled that we're working on this project together, and you're working on a project on your own simultaneously. And, that was part of what this trip was about, because Michael McCovey, the reason why we reconnected was because he just produced a video for Sanjati. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows about Greasy Fry Bread. Everybody in Indian country knows about that song, knows about Reservation Dog. Sanjati is an amazing human being. He was up at I believe it was the Salmon Fest, and they converged and made a music video. So we reconnected, and I was like, yeah, I put a post out if anybody wanted to come on my trip, and he hit me up, was like, oh yeah, I want to come on the trip. I said, oh, perfect. Let's get this footage. But we were more so in a prayer, so I wanted the prayer to allow itself to manifest instead of my human getting away. Because there was a couple times I wanted to be like, hey, bro, just here, get this footage real quick for me, or hey, do this one verse for me, or whatever. But I learned on this path to just stay in the prayer. and allow that to manifest itself. So that's what happened. And we are going to work. He's going to, I mean, I don't want to let the cat out the bag, but we're working on the Indigenous Warrior book. Michael McCovey is probably going to be the production team to work on the docu-movie for the Indigenous Warrior book. So, I mean, all of this happened for a reason. And we're all here celebrating California Native culture, by the way, because all three of us are Cali natives. And California Indian Day is on Friday. So shouts out to all my Cali natives. And Michael's right. We don't get enough light shed upon us. And sometimes it's because we're so humble and that we're okay with that. But it's our time. It's California, baby. You know what I mean? It's time for us to get our time on.
Yeah, no, it's the last Friday of every September, and I've already got something in the works that I'll be doing for the article for that week. And we're also going to be as since you're letting cats out of the bag, I'll let the dog out of the bag, and just we're gonna be featuring you specifically on that Friday, Mr. Richard Ledrigal. Never call me sir, dude. No, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. Never call me sir. I don't earn that. I've never earned that title. But in any case, we're going to be featuring you on California Indian Day because that's definitely something that we need to go and to make sure that we happen. And as well as Indigenous hip hop goes, we know that we need to celebrate August as the foundations of hip hop, and then also November being the Hip Hop History Month, as it was proclaimed by the state of New York. But what I've actually proposed is that we're gonna recapitalize that and territorialize and occupy that space, because if November is Native American History Month, and if it's already been passed as Hip Hop History Month, then we're going to do Native Hip Hop History Month, on the month of November. And so, so we'll be, promoting and kind of putting some of these different things out there, because as you gentlemen said very articulately and comfortably, is that California Native people do not get enough attention with it. And even though this is the state with the most dense Native population in the entire nation, tribal as well as intertribal, rural as well as reservation, rancheria and in corporations, because we have our ranchos, rancherias, and reservations. We have all of them, inside of here. So it's an extremely complex, Native identity and location to be in. And also, since we were all pushed into the rocks or pushed into the waters, or these kind of ways, our disenfranchisement and ways that we've been, do I dare use the word persecuted, socially, politically, as well as culturally. It's an inverted time that's come up. There's a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes that are going on in California. And I would agree with you, Rich. There's a lot of humility, and there's a lot of just comfortable transparency that people just don't see that's going on. I'm aware of it because I scour the Native news every single day, and I go through all the big sources, and I'm trying to, sift through what's important and need to broadcast to the community. But that's only a minor, issue that comes up, and having to kind of, wade through all the work that's out there, because a lot of times it still kind of falls back on the profile of, Southwest or Plains, Indian style, and people just forget. And it really goes back to the one point that I just say again and again and again. Once the Indian Reorganization Act pushed Native people over here to the West Coast, and the feds, the federal government just said, "What? There's more of them." It's like, forget it. We're done. We're out of the Indian issue. Get rid of them. So, so our treaties were rewritten. Once they got the paper signed, they were inverted, they were changed, they were moved. It was a completely, eradication movement that happened here in California. And the termination policy, was explicitly waged here in California, where we had the Indian shoots, and the open, promoted, murdering of Native people here in California. I mean, I don't mean to be graphic, but that was, your township had a quota in the 1870s, 1860s, 70s, and 80s, especially during the gold rush era, which is, the 40s, right? Where if your township did not meet a certain quota of Native people that you terminated, literally killed off, or took into slavery, not indentured servants, slavery, then your town was taxed. So that was openly done, here in California, and that's a part of the history that doesn't get talked about.
Yeah.
And
Go
ahead.
wait.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Mike. Chime in.
I was just gonna say, it's so crazy that you say that, Alan, because the ride up and the ride down, me and Richie were talking. I was telling Richie all kinds of stories, like about when the United States Army first came, this was way, you know what I mean? They didn't start shipping us off to boarding schools until like the 1900s. Like 1907.
Yeah, 1910.
Something like that. My grandpa, you can look this up. He was an elder. His name was Jimmy Jackson, and he was 9 years old when he escaped from Sherman Indian School down in Riverside.
Oh yeah.
And so what he did was he ran away from the boarding school, and then he hid on the train all the way up to Redding, California. And if you can see that on a map, that's a pretty far stretch of land, and not just for a grown man, but a little 9-year-old boy that's never probably been to Riverside ever. But he was smart enough to know to get on the train and ride all the way back up to Redding, and then he hitchhiked on feet from Redding to back to the reservation. And I can never, my daughter is 11 years old. I can never, ever, ever imagine her having to go through that. That's my baby. And, just hearing stories like that about boarding schools, about, us being disenfranchised, all that stuff. Like, it's just funny because what we were talking about on the ride up there for our trip over the weekend, we're talking about now, and you're bringing up all these points. We're kind of doing the same thing. It's just, like Richie says, it's kind of like, it's just the medicine, or it's gotta, it's just coming together. I feel like, and just the gold rush too. I was talking about the gold rush. I was telling Richie about it. That's crazy that you bring that up, and then we were talking about it. So yeah, man, keep going, Alan.
No, I'll just qualify it and bring it back around. Is that September 30th is actually the day of remembrance for the survivors of boarding school. And just so you know, actually, my family went to Sherman, the boarding school, and I went to a boarding school as well. But I didn't go to Sherman. My grandmother actually stepped in the way and said no, she didn't want me to go there. But I went to a different one, and I have the scars to prove it. And it's I mean, for me, third grade was a closet, literally. And it was like, if I wasn't getting beat up on the playground, I was getting beat up in the classroom by the teachers. So it's I have that experience, of what it is, and surviving it and coming through it. And because the boarding schools did not stop its population until 1970. Just so you know. So that's a minimum of a 7-decade run here in the United States. That's just the United States. That's not Canada with the residential schools, and that's not still what's going on down in South America, Central and South America. But in any case, I just wanted to kind of bring that back around. And as we're getting on to some really good things here. Is there anything else though that you guys want to talk about on this trip? Because Mike, we're going to have you back, so that way you can talk specifically a lot more about your work and what you're doing, and these kinds of things, and to really kind of let you guys unpackage it. Because this conversation was really about what happened over the weekend with you guys, taking the trip up to Oregon, and all the craziness that you gentlemen went through, and the fact that you survived it. I'm just glad that both of you are safe.
Well, yeah, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the 30-year reunion too, because I know we're getting a little bit short on time for the podcast. But once again, gratitude to the Pro Fish Martinez, all of the ancestors that protected us on our trip, the people that laid prayers for us, my brother Michael McCovey coming through, being part of the trip, and shouts out to you too, Alan, for being behind the scenes doing what you do. You know, I gotta give them the thrills that make the thrills to pay the bills. So, you know, that's what I was doing this weekend. Sunday was an amazing 30-year reunion. Guys, 30 years independent, strictly independent in the hip hop industry. No drug money, no dirty money, nothing of the sort. I've never signed any deals, although I was offered many of them, including as the group Funky Mexicans. We were offered a couple different deals. But we just been doing this 30 years independent, and it's because of viewers that are out there right now listening, supporting, and just giving us the energy that we need. You know what I mean? So shouts out to my bro Michael McCovey. Shouts out to the Maker. Shouts out to our sis Yvette. Shouts out to everybody that made it out to the event, including our product sponsor Lola. Shouts out to Uptown Takeout for hosting us, and shouts out to my bro Rio Brand, Just Loyal, and my bro Wicked, Bethel 916, of course my girl Katina, and the rest of the family, and all of our friends that came out from many places to come and share time and space over at the reunion.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds like it was. It sounds like it was. It was a really good deal, and you know we're gonna pick up on all that because I know you have a lot more things that are in the wraps and stuff that's going on. So while we're wrapping ourselves down here, any last little thoughts?
Me personally, I just want to, like I said, I just want to, give thanks. I'm sitting here burning this root right here while we're talking. Just because, I feel, good medicine off of this. With what you're doing, with what he's doing, with what I'm doing, and like you said, we're getting into some really good topics, probably topics that don't get talked about enough, and they definitely don't get talked about enough through like mainstream media. Like you see it all the time, and with the MMIW stuff. That doesn't really get mainstream. I mean, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It's just, like I said, I just want to say thank you to you guys for having me and, introducing me to this whole thing and, the whole California natives versus the world movement. That's going to be awesome. We got some shirts coming, some merch, stickers, whatever, hats, I don't know. But anyways, yeah, I just want to say thank you guys, man. And can't wait to see what the future holds. And congratulations to Richie on his 30-year anniversary, man. I mean, you're going to Africa, and then you're going to Hawaii, right? You said?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so man, those are cool things to be doing. So I just want to, what I mean, like tip my hat off to you, and give you your flowers because that's an awesome thing to be doing. Hip hop native hip hop for 30 years, bro. Yeah, he's definitely an OG. He's a legend.
Nice.
Yeah, shouts out to Without Reservations, by the way, the first indigenous hip hop group that released an album in the industry. Lightfoot, and all of the other founders. You know what I mean? There's so many people that we could name. I do want to remind people what I want to share a little time and space with where I can is that the Indigenous Hip Hop Business Association is formulated by myself, Richie Ladrigo, and my partner, Alan Lachuza, Dr. Alan Lachuza, who has a PhD in Native American hip hop. And part of what is my vision and what I feel like we're doing is archiving the history of Indigenous hip hop in a very respectful way, in a truthful way, in an open format. And we're doing the best that we can to include as many people through this archiving of indigenous hip hop. So please join us in that movement. And I had a vision that eventually we're gonna raise the funds to have a venue or a location that's gonna be the Indigenous Hip Hop Hall of Fame / museum. And you know, I know that we can do it. I know that we can make it happen. I know it's a grand vision. I don't know if there's anything else out there like that, but I would love to be the ones to house that, to have that facility, and to be able to put that for the people. But that's what I wanted to share, is that it's not about me, it's not about Alan, it's not about our accolades or our titles. The Indigenous Hip Hop Business Association is here to archive Indigenous hip hop and provide formulas and modules for people that are in that realm to thrive.
As long as we have a space where we can hold lectures and workshops and seminars and discussions about the importance, of Native and Indigenous hip hop along to go with it, you and I are actually had the same dream. So without even saying it, so take us out, Rich.
Yee. Yo, what's good, y'all? Ricky the Dreamer.
This is Dr. Alan Luchusa Aquio.
This is the Indigenous Hip Hop Business Association.
Supporting and promoting positive and conscious Native and Indigenous hip hop.